I think that a lot of people will be surprised when they start asking others, break it down to me. How do you do things? And then you're going to find out that there's a waste of time, resources, and capital happening.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate InvestHER show. This is part 2 of our minisode 2-part series where we're continuing to explore really what investors are challenged with right now is when buying is just not an option. And what we talked about for part 1 was really focused on realignment of your buying criteria, realignment of yourself. And for part 2, what are we going to be talking about, Andressa?
We're going to talk about the things that we do have control of, which is stabilization of our current assets and also setting ourselves up for success for when an opportunity shows up. Because guess what, Liz? Not everybody is ready to buy. So let's make sure that you're listening. At the end of this episode, you will be. All right, Liz. So part 1, we talk about realignment. And if you did not listen to that, please check it out. Our previous minisode that we talk about alignment. During this episode, we're going to talk about stabilization. Liz, I think that a lot of people sometimes focus on buying more properties instead of stabilizing and optimizing their current portfolio. So let's talk about what does that look like, right? So stabilization, making sure that the property is producing, that you have tenants there, that you have guests there if it is a long-term or mid-term rental. And it's producing to the best of its ability. I think a lot of people think about the next property very premature before stabilizing and making sure that it is the current property is running as a machine. So let's break down what does that look like. To me, stabilization, it's how can I increase cash flow and decrease expenses? Liz, I know that you had a recent call with your insurance company.
Yeah.
And you're negotiating a lot of things, right? And same thing with me when I'm looking at
increasing. I saved $500 on Chess. I'm very happy about that.
You're happy about that, right? So when we were thinking about stabilization, we were thinking about what are ways that I can increase my cash flow? When was the last time that I increased rent? Am I charging late fee? Do I have all the secure deposits that match the current rent? You'll be surprised. A lot of people don't increase that, right? What are different fees that I'm paying right now that I can renegotiate? Verizon or whatever carrier you have, the Wi-Fi, the alarm company, your utilities. There's so many fees. When was the last time that you looked through it? That you're looking through your property management fees? Really go through a freaking audit about every single thing and making sure that, okay, if I add a laundromat over there, is that a good investment? If I rent the laundromat, is that a good investment or not? How can I increase that? And I know, Liz, that you guys had a portfolio where you were not focusing on buying, you were focusing on stabilizing, and that it's not the same, right? 2008 is not the same, but I think it gives us a picture. So share with us what you guys did during that time.
Yeah. And a sidebar is that within the downturn, when the downturn happened, I had quit my job 3 months prior. So
great.
It was great timing. Great timing. And I would say that our current portfolio at the time was 4 single-family homes, 16 units of multifamily, and a vacant office building. That was it. And all in the Trenton, New Jersey kind of vicinity. So what we did there, in our argument's sake, we were not set up for success. Like if someone said, this is a scenario, are these two going to thrive right now? I think no one would be betting on us. So we did though is what we got very focused on, to your point, stabilization. And the way we did that is we took every single property by its own project and really looked at it as, hey, what can we do here? Obviously, with a vacant office building that's costing us a tremendous amount of money, we needed to get that full of small office tenants. We were looking for one tenant. We pivoted very quickly and said, what can we do? So we broke that up. We broke up the building and really built out like a small business center. And one by one had tenants come into the building and start to stabilize that asset. Okay. So put that on the side. Well, our four single family homes, ironically, were meant to be flipped. And then the downturn happened. So we couldn't flip them, obviously. Right. So we looked at what were the expenses that we were paying. And we're like, okay, these are single family homes. They really should be responsible for most of these, if not all of these expenses, except taxes and insurance, typically for single family homes. So we renegotiated that with the tenants because they were really trying to buy them and they couldn't, and stabilized those four single family homes, made sure the rent covered our mortgage, obviously our taxes and our insurance, right? So we really cleaned that up and kind of confirmed that those potential buyers were going to be tenants instead. So that's the single family home piece. For the 16 units we had in outside of Trenton, what was interesting there, the biggest thing that we did was we really tightened up our property management systems and processes. Now, Andressa, you know that Matt and I, it's not like our core genius is to be super system oriented, but you know, when the shit hits the fan, you do what you can to tighten things up and get really efficient because we needed to, right? We had to.
What did you do specifically?
Specifically, I was going to say, I know you're she's like, right.
I want to
know. You want to know the specifics. Here's what you can do when you are managing property. There's a lot of wasted time and energy from a maintenance perspective. These assets were probably B minus, C plus properties. They always needed things. 16 units every day. And so what we had is our handyman would be going out to, you know, that unit. Then he'd be going to the office building and he'd be going back and forth and it was not consistent. It was not efficient. So we set up like a plan. Okay, you're going to go to the Concords and hit all the work orders Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday and Thursday. And that wasn't all day. It wasn't like a full-time gig, but Tuesday, Thursday were the other assets. If the single families needed something or the office building needed something. And this wasn't even that far, but just that efficiency of time and energy really reduced our expense paying a handyman. And so that's the biggest thing is what can you do? What do you have control over? And that's what we did. And that made a big difference. We were able to save time and money because he'd charge us for that time that he's like going between the properties because technically he's on the clock with us. So that's one quick thing that you can do.
You know, I think that a lot of people will be surprised when they start asking others, like, break it down to me. How do you do things? And then you're going to find out that there's a waste of time, resources, and capital happening. So the way that I see it like a hose with a lot of hose on it. You will see it when it's a big hole, right? But you know those tiny little holes? Can you imagine like those little like going several times? That is where your money is going, to the ground. If you're not having taking a look at your bills, your softwares, everything that's going on, and really like, let me do an audit. I'm not asking you to do this every month, but every 6 months or once in a year, really looked at how things are. So you're stabilizing and optimizing your current portfolio. Now let's talk about how can you set yourself up for success moving forward when the right quote unquote property comes, because not a lot of people are ready to buy. And I'll share a couple of things that I have in mind, right? When you are thinking about lenders, do you have 3 in your back pocket? When you're thinking about strategies, what are the options that you have? When I say 3, it's like this rule of 3 that we always talk about. There's always 3 options in my head to resolve a problem. There's always 3 options for me to get out of this deal. There's always 3 options as an exit strategy. There's always 3 options that I can run the numbers if I should do long-term, short-term, or mid-term rental. There's always 3. If you train your brain to thinking 3s, you're going to be really prepared for when things happen. So Liz, what do you have on your end in order to share here with people?
Absolutely. And when it comes to preparing for acquisition, you know, so many people they're on the sidelines. They're not doing what they need to be doing now so they can get ready for the next season. And so to your point, do you have 3 sources of finding properties? I firmly believe distressed properties will increase. There's no question as the economy shifts. There's no question. So the question for you, if you're listening, how do you get in front of the right people and processes to source yourself more opportunities?
Can I make a comment on that? Because I think that a lot of people are hunting for properties instead of attracting properties. Okay. How can you create a system, an ecosystem where you are attracting people? Do you have a website? Do you have a form there where can people plug in? Do you have an easy way for the wholesalers to send you deals that you can connect and get back to them quickly, right? So always think about how you are presenting yourself and attracting instead of hunting.
Right. And I think a good mix of kind of like technology, like website, online marketing is always effective, and building relationships. I think a mix of the two is actually probably your best recipe.
Mindful, right, Liz?
Really mindful. Like obviously, really thinking, okay, in this market and this type of asset class, who do I need to be networking with? Not just from a wholesaler and a commercial broker perspective. That's obvious. But who do I need to know in this community so that that they can potentially refer that deals that may not be kind of quote unquote on market. I heard a great success story from someone who connected with the EMT, the folks that go out and help people, obviously in emergencies. This person they connected with went out in this community, knew everyone in this community because they were always there helping people or what have you. They met them at some networking event, and they were like a source of deals for them because they were literally going into all these different homes. And so they'd see and they'd connect with all these individuals, very random, but it was effective. So what unique ways can you put yourself, out there, and who can you connect with? The local town, the mayor, if it's a small town, of course, the local township. So those are a few. The key is 3. Have a 3-pronged approach for acquiring new opportunities.
That's awesome. And also look at companies that offer products and services to you. Always adding in and getting in contact with those companies and experts and professionals that have the experience and resources. Check out our monthly events where we bring experts that can bring to you tools that you can add to your toolbox. They are free every single month. We're going to add the link over here on our show notes, or you can go directly to therealestateInvestor.com/events and check this out. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.